Right? Whoever is coming, they know they are coming, they will come. The next speaker is attempting his advanced communication gold speech, and this will be evaluated by Toastmaster John Joseph. Can we have the objectives of the speech, please?
Good evening, Toastmasters. The title of the speech is Impromptu Speaking, and objectives for the same is develop an awareness of situations in which you might be called upon to deliver an impromptu speech, understand how to prepare for impromptu speaking, use one or more patterns to approach a topic under discussion, for example, comparing a past, present and future situation before and after. Timer to note 5 to 7 minutes. The topic will be chosen by the Toastmaster himself. Back to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster John. This gentleman plays a lot. He used to play a lot. He still plays, but with a difference. He was playing with balls, snooker balls, not the footballs, snooker, billiards. He represented the state and the country at very high levels of tournaments. And we are privileged to have him as a member. But these days he plays with words. Soft spoken but very powerful. You won't realize that he is humorous till you start laughing. Please put your hands together and welcome Toastmaster Anis Aziz. And he is going to pick one topic out of the 5 and he will speak impromptu for 5 to 7 minutes on that topic.
The rule says you pick one.
I pick one. Doesn't make any difference. We are buddies.
You can tell me.
Yes, if I can read it, I can. Did any doctor write this topic? Your stint with writing for the paper. Incidentally, he writes columns for Deccan Herald. So your stint writing for the paper, Toastmaster Anis Aziz.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Some of you may know, and as he just said, I was writing for a column in Deccan Herald. It was a few years ago, maybe 8 to 9 years ago. I wrote for 2 years. It was a bi-weekly column, small column, but I believe that it was read extensively. I'll tell you how it all began. I was never a writer, in the sense that I never made an attempt to write articles or anything of that sort. Though I like language and I always found it interesting to learn new vocabulary and put them in use in my school and college. In school nobody appreciated me, sure. But in college there was a teacher in St. Joseph's College of Arts and Sciences. She once remarked, I wrote an essay, a small essay, and she said, "You write well." And that, gave me a little confidence. And there was, probably that's the only time, or maybe I got a appreciation from a friend whom I had written to, saying that you really write well. Things like that, passing remarks. I was basically in the field of real estate. I was a real estate consultant. I would read this column in Deccan Herald, which was called Oasis. I don't know how many of you read that. It still appears in Deccan Herald for so many years now. It's a small column for 350, those days it used to be 500 words. And it was basically about either spirituality or about religion. And it was represented by all peoples of all religion, or people who had some knowledge about their own religion. They would write about their own religion, and it was very interesting. And to my dismay, I found that the person who was writing about Islam was a person who was not from the mainstream Islam. So what he was writing was, I found it rather irrelevant. He was talking about here and there, not talking about the real substance. And I understand that since we live in a pluralistic society, we may know about each other's religion and about each other's cultures, but we really don't know some of the basic things. So what he was writing was not shedding light on anything. I found it rather useless. So one day, I went to Deccan Herald to release an ad, a classified ad pertaining to my business, a real estate classified ad. After I did that, on second thought, I went to the counter and I said, can I speak to the person who is in charge of this column? So they put me on. So I spoke to him and said, see, the person who I introduced myself, and I said, the person who's writing in this column, who's representing Islam, is not really representing Islam. He's not from the mainstream Islam, he's one of the subsects. So he said, what can we do about it? So he said, I kept on talking to him, and then he said, if you think you know better, why don't you write an article? So I said, I'll try, definitely I'll try. And then that was the first time I wrote an article on Islam, and I sent it to him. It was published. And I didn't hear from him for quite some time. And I got a call from him later on, maybe a couple of weeks later, saying that your article was okay. If you think you can write, you can send in more articles. That encouraged me. And I began writing. I sent another article. Even that got published. And another article, even that got published. But not immediately. It took some time, maybe once in 3 weeks or so. Finally, he called me and said, we want to make it a regular feature. Can you write one article every 2 weeks? We'll give you a particular day. That was good for me because I had many things to say, and I understood that this was an opportunity for me to clear so many myths and also to inform about the basic things, basic tenets. And I wrote, and it continued for 2 years. After that, I found that I had finished of whatever I had to say. I was neither clergy, nor was I a writer. So it was whatever I knew I wrote with a bit of research. Finally I came to a dead end sort of a thing. And the option in front of me was either delve so deep into it, try and get further facts which even I was not aware and then publish it and write for the paper, or write something to just fill up space. And write something to fill up spaces that I really didn't want to do. Therefore, I said I want to take a break. And I took a break, and later on I found that there were other people who were writing, and for Islam and on behalf of Islam. I found that was good enough, so I never ventured again into writing. But I learned a lot in this period when I was writing. I learned from the people who commented on my article. There were people in subtle ways taught me how to write, if you really understand. Their comments would not be published in the paper, but on the online version, if you looked at it online, people would comment and that would be published. There were people who were critical about of what I wrote, not as far as the style and the language, but or the content of what I wrote. There were others who were appreciative of it, but there were others who actually pointed out my mistakes in writing. As I told you, I was not a writer. I didn't know the nuances of writing, of sentence structure and things. Maybe even grammatically I made mistakes here and there. So there were people who taught me. And I found that to my shock and surprise, a pleasant surprise, that a lot of people were reading my article. Not because it was my article, because it appeared in Deccan Herald. There was a person who called me and said, I want to meet you. He got my number from the office, because my number is also not published in the column. He came and met me and he said, you're doing a wonderful job, and you are, I didn't know so much, I didn't know so many things what you've written about Islam, though I've been living in this country and in the midst of other Muslim friends, but I didn't know so much. That encouraged me, that egged me to write further. So that went on, and I felt that my writing has made me a better person. I myself had to do a little bit of research to ascertain what I'm writing. You may know things, but you can't just say it, because that is going to a lot of people. And you don't want to confuse them any further, because you're trying to clear their misconceptions, and I didn't want them to get further into any other misconceptions. Therefore, my writing was a pleasurable experience for me. I wish to continue writing, perhaps on other fields as well. With that, we'll be back.